Ask the Podcast Coach for March 15th, 2025.
Let's get ready to podcast.
There it is. It's that music that means it is Saturday morning. It's time for Ask the Podcast Coach, where you get your podcast questions answered live. I'm Dave Jackson from the schoolofpodcasting.com, and joining me right over there is the one and only Jim Collison from HomeGadgetGeeks.com. Jim, how's it going, buddy?
Good morning, Dave. Happy Saturday morning to you. Always good to be with you. Happy St. Patrick's Day weekend. And of course, I wore red instead of green. I'm an idiot. Sorry.
Yeah, well, here's the thing. That makes so much sense. I knew St. Patty's was around the corner, but I was laughing because it was really nice here in Ohio last night. So I was out walking around, and I was like, wow, somebody still has their Christmas lights up. And I'm like, oh,
I keep my lights up. I bought one of those set of lights that you can program it with different colors. So, we do the red and green at Christmas, and then we do red and white for Valentine's Day. And now green and white is flashing for St. Patrick's Day. And then I have some teal that will go for Easter. And then we change it back to red, white, and blue for the 4th of July. Then, like, Labor Day is the worst holiday because what colors do you do for Labor Day? Right. So that's the next holiday.
Yeah, that's
I don't know. There's no colors
blue,
for Labor.
I don't know. What's the color of a sheet sale? That's or is that Labor Day?
Mattress.
Yeah.
Mattress sales. Yeah.
But anyway, to top off the celebration of St. Patrick's Day, Jim has we're gonna do coffee. Is there anything special in that coffee in honor of St. Patrick?
I have some Baileys in the fridge. I am blowing it this morning. Dang it. Anyway, so let's pour
the coffee. And of course, that coffee is brought to you by our good friend Mark over at he hit the button. See, this is the joy. We're on Ecamm 4.4. I rebooted my machine. Okay, well, that's weird because I tested this literally like 4 minutes ago. There it is. Our good buddy Mark over at podcastbranding.co. If you need artwork, if you need a website, if you need a spinning beach ball, I got one. Go over to podcastbranding.co. Mark is an award-winning graphic artist, and that's right, he's a podcaster, so you don't have to explain. It's kind of like a radio show. No, he's got it. In fact, he's going to probably listen to your show. He's going to sit down with you one-on-one to make sure that your artwork, your website, your PDF, your business card, anything that is going to be facing the public is going to be in alignment with your brand. And you're just not going to get that from some person on Fiverr. He's been doing it for over 30 years. He's been podcasting since 2013. And I know if you're watching this on the screen, I got to get a new graphic here. It says branded over 250 podcasts. That's over 500 now. So there's only one place to go when you want to look great, and that is podcastbranding.co.
I can't hear the music for whatever reason. Was it there?
Maybe because you're on Zoom. I don't know.
Maybe it is the Zoom. Well, anyways, good. Big thanks to our good friend Dan Lefebvre over there. Based on a true story podcast.com this week. I mentioned it last week, but his latest with Robin Flannery, She Wanted to Do Everything. Check that out today. Available for you, and a really, really good podcast. If you missed the three-part on the Pinkertons, that is still available for you as well. Check it out today. Based on a true story at basedonatruestorypodcast.com. And Dan, thanks for your sponsorship.
Yeah, it's weird. Sometimes when I push the button on the Stream Deck, everything comes right back up. And then
I went and listened to it in the monitor. I've got the live stream up. By the way, the live stream looks a million. We're on Zoom today. The live stream looks a million times better than what we see, which is odd. Yeah. Like, you'd think we would get the best resolution on this thing, right? And then, for me, the music, it's being muted, gated, something along it. So as long as they can hear it, that's fine.
Yeah.
But it's a challenge anyways with using Zoom.
After the challenges we've had getting people into Ecamm, which is always kind of weird because some people had absolutely no problem at all. And then I remember somebody sent me a screenshot where they'd gone into their settings and it just said microphone, microphone, microphone. Like, that was it. It didn't even say what kind. And so I know that Zoom or Ecamm integrates with Zoom. And so today, if you go to askthepodcastcoach.com/question, it's going to send you to a Zoom link. And I've played with this last night. And it's the one thing as I was doing this, I'm like, well, I'm working with Ecamm. Boy, I hope I can have another floating screen on my monitor. And I do. I have now one of Zoom, and it's, I was like, okay, that's the only thing I didn't like about it. But I'm like, I get it. And the fun thing is that screen you cannot minimize. In fact, I have Mark Z. See, that's the thing I'm going to miss. In Ecamm, you had a little like when somebody entered the room. I can probably turn that on in Zoom, but Mark is back with us, so we're gonna click a couple buttons here, and I'm going to, in theory, the native voyage of bringing in a guest on Zoom. We have, and again, I've clicked the button. There we go. We have Mark coming to the stage. So, Mark, how are you, buddy?
Great. Thanks for having me back on.
Yeah, man. What's going on?
Hopefully my mic is right this time, but we'll figure that out later.
Yeah.
So again, harkening back to podcasts from prior and whatnot, you had mentioned that some podcasts are podcasts, some podcasts are they get onto YouTube and they try to be podcasts on YouTube, and then they just wind up, there's a million different ways of trying to do different things. But the Christian Principles podcast has a YouTube. So we are a podcast through Spotify, RSS feed out to several others, of course, the big ones. We took our podcast in its long form, usually about half an hour, and we put it straight to a YouTube channel.
Okay.
Started doing a little bit more of the YouTube channel, and that long form it's getting nothing, but it's getting nothing, and we're expecting. Yeah, go ahead.
Is that as a video or as a audio with the static image? Okay, as an actual
video. As a video. So as a video, and with some care taken to actually get decent webcams and things like that. Yeah. So okay with the product at this point. But we didn't necessarily. We also opened up a second channel just to have our audio with a static image through what is now, of course, YouTube podcast, because that's replacing Google Podcast, right? Or replaced it, so on and so forth.
Well, YouTube Music replaced Google Podcasts. Sure. And a YouTube, because there's three types of podcasts. There's the OG video podcast that goes anywhere that takes an RSS feed. There's a YouTube podcast that goes to YouTube and YouTube Music, and then there's a Spotify video podcast that only goes to Spotify.
Yes, so we are doing all three of those, but we're not really messing with our long form bit. So we're recording it and using the audio as what most of our people are hearing.
Right.
We're using the video to have the video, to archive the video, but we also have the RSS feed feeding a different channel on YouTube with one subscriber. But it's also getting our podcast out to that Google Music, YouTube Music. But what has been very helpful, and you had mentioned this on one of your podcasts previously, and a friend in the business had noted the using shorts and reels. Mm-hmm. And so what we're really seeing is way more engagement with our shorts and reels on YouTube and Instagram. So I've been getting into what makes those stronger, what makes those better. So all that to say, my big question today is, do you have any tool suggestions or any third-party push-out suggestions for someone trying to streamline the time it takes to upload to Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube with a reel?
With a reel.
So a reel or a short, reel on YouTube and reel on Instagram and Facebook, and a short on YouTube. Do you know of a tool that would, from one dashboard, pump all three?
That's a good question, because my answer is just get Google Fiber. It takes about 10 seconds to upload it, if that.
I wish it was available here.
Yeah, I don't. Jim, do you know of any? I know there's CapCut and all these other things to make the shorts and such. But in terms of great, now I got one. How do I avoid having to go to Instagram and Threads and Blue Sky and all the other places to upload it? I don't. Let's see if the chat.
I'd have to ask.
Yeah,
I have some. We have a team at work that does this, and then I don't personally do it with Home Gadget Geeks. So I don't, back in the day there were a bunch of services, and they're all escaping my brain right
I
now
remember
as far as what they were. Yeah,
Buffer,
Buffer.
you could
Yeah.
send it to a bunch of different places. Ralph is saying
Ask.
Social Pilot.
Mhm.
I've heard now that's a Instagram tool. Let's see what else. Radar Agora Pulse will do that. Buffer can do both.
Mark, have you tried anything yet?
Oh yeah, so I'm using the, what is it called, the Meta dashboard for Facebook and Instagram.
Yeah.
And then on YouTube, you can do bulk reel, because for every episode, I try to get 5, 6 reels out there, just increasing the chances of the one popping off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I can do, so it's there are bulk uploads available for YouTube on YouTube through YouTube Studio, and then there's a bulk upload available for the Meta Business Dashboard. Right now, there's an issue where I can only use the bulk upload to go to Facebook. It won't go to Instagram. But it would be great to have one place that would push it to all 3.
I know.
Good question. Repurpose.
Yeah, I'm gonna say that's
Chris
good.
says repurpose.
Good old Hanny Mora.
Yeah.
Would be one that I totally forgot about. But yeah,
That's one I'd look at, because Hanny's been in the podcasting community and this community for a long time. So he kind of understands he kind of understands the brain of the podcaster. And what is it? I think it's repurpose.io.
Yeah, I'm trying
is the site I've
purposing.
That may be one, Mark, to look at. Maybe not the best well-known one, but I think from a developer standpoint, the most connected to podcasters. He's at all the podcast conferences. He's super friendly. He's very approachable. And from a support standpoint, I think he handles most of his own support. So I don't know how he does it and still have kids and all those kinds of things, but repurpose.io, I think is that right, Dave? Repurpose.io.
Or you can use Dave's affiliate link by going to supportthishow.com/repurpose.io.
Yeah.
So that would be
Yeah, Mark, I'd give that one a look. I'd give Repurpose a look.
Okay. That's it. Thanks, guys.
All right.
I appreciate it.
Thanks, man.
Glad to hear it's going well.
Yeah.
Thanks for checking in.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Have a good weekend.
I have a thought about there we go. Shorts.
I see the guests now, which is kind of cool. When they come in,
oh, that's good.
I can see them. Yeah, that's actually I can maybe give you some kind of baseball sign that hey, there's a guest.
Well, that's where I just need to realize now that even though I can see them once I add them, you know what I mean, but I can't. Where before, I'm almost positive in Zoom you can have it make a noise when somebody's in the waiting room or something like that, because I just happened to click and was like, oh crap, Mark's there. But I have a thought on why shorts do better than longs. And I'm trying to do this in a clean way, but it is the difference between a one night stand and a relationship that with someone you love and know before you degrade them. So it's because I realized it was weird. There's a guy, and again, I can't remember his name, but every time he comes up in Reels, which is usually where I get sucked into shorts, Facebook Reels, I'll go in, but sometimes on YouTube, because you can't escape them. You open up anything and it's like, here's a bunch of 30-second stuff to look at. And but what I've noticed is, and every time he comes up, I watch it. And I went and finally they fed me something long on his YouTube channel, and he said his name, and I was like, I have seen hundreds of this guy's shorts, and I had no idea what his name was. And I was like, I think that's kind of the level of engagement you get with shorts. Like they're like, oh, I like that guy with the coffee mug. Yeah, what's his name? I don't know. He's got the beard, and a coffee mug, and he always kind of makes a joke at the end and drinks out of the coffee. You know that guy. And you're like, no, I don't know that guy. And it was kind of weird. So Daniel says, the irony of this question is that these other platforms actually supported video podcasting. This would be taken care of by really simple syndicate. Yeah. Daniel, if you can, Daniel has a post. He added a new feature at his podcast. Oh, I should know this. it's Podcast Industry Insights. Is that his thing? But he's now tracking the number of podcasts on YouTube in his insights. And the fun part is, of course, the number of podcasts on YouTube is 0. Get it? Oh, okay. So, but I thought I saw a screenshot of that, and I was like, there you go. And I almost clipped it. I don't want to go there, but there was a woman on Pod News Weekly Review and was saying about how, YouTube, more people listen to podcasts on YouTube. And I was just like, oh, please don't poke the bear. Chris said, I would suggest creating 2 different YouTube channels for essentially the same audio content. Yeah, you're competing with yourself, and the audio version is most certainly never going to get found. Yeah, that's just one where because you have the video of the stuff, I don't know if I would even bother with the audio version of the stuff, because in theory, it's the same title, it's the same description in YouTube, so you are competing with yourself. Yeah, I always say the static image is what you do when you're doing nothing on YouTube. And by that, I mean 0, because that is essentially better than nothing. And if you already have video, like this show is on YouTube with video, and the audio goes to, all the other places, but I would never put a static version of this, because the better version is already here. And so at that point, I'm like, well, okay, I'm already doing kind of as much as you can on YouTube by putting an actual video. So I'm not going to even bother with a static version of it. Cause then you're and I don't know anybody, I'm sure there's probably one person that is actually getting a decent completion rate with a static video thing where it's, they go in and, Jim is saying, hey, does the Zoom chat go anywhere? It actually ends up in the chat room that I can see. So I can see you're in Zoom. I can see Ralph here, who says my production team does a great job of posting to each of the social platforms, but you may want to check the notes for each because the formats are different. So I can see a little YouTube thing on Ralph where yours, Jim, has the little Zoom thingy. So
yeah, I don't think it goes live. So I think this chat in Zoom is just between you and me. And then
or whoever else is in Zoom. Yeah.
You have like if Mark, when Mark was in, he could have put it in there. And then you must have a unified chat on your side of things where you're seeing the Zoom come in.
Yeah.
That's good to know.
Yeah.
That's good to know. Yeah. I'm trying to find a bandwidth selector on Zoom that my picture when I'm watching is terrible on this side. So I know I went out and checked the live feed. It looks great. We're clear, all those other things. That looks good. But Dave, I actually have trouble seeing. So when you're putting up the the comments, those are terrible. Like I have a hard time. They're all pixelated.
Oh, that's no good.
It's almost like a witness protection program. Can't quite see.
Because Dan from Based on a True Story podcast says, does YouTube do true audio? Because I always thought it converts to MP4, so still image is a boring video, but it's still a video file. Yeah, that's true. When we say
it is it's compressed for sure.
Yeah. So, yes, Podcast Industry Insights. Thank you, Jim. .com. And, I see. He hasn't added it to the navigation yet, but I thought that was pretty funny that, the whole YouTube thing. But it is, and that's where, because I forget who I was listening to. It might have been Tom Webster, because if you go to YouTube, Sounds Profitable put up a bunch of presentations from South by Southwest. And Tom was being very Tom Webster, and he said, while YouTube is important to podcasting, he goes, I don't think video is. And I was like, ooh, that's fighting words for some people. But they were talking about how the fact that most podcasts are, they don't have to be 3 hours long, but they're, 20 minutes or so versus a short, which is 4 minutes. And he goes, that's why podcasts have a better connection. That's why we outsell everything on the planet, because of the connection we have with our audience. And while I love, and it's sad to say this out loud, I love Doug and the Business Cats. So I'm actually watching cat videos, and anytime Doug and the Business Cats come up, it's very creative, because this guy does a lot of stuff with sound shaping. Because obviously it's one dude. He's making all these voices for his cats, and I don't know what he's doing to them that they're constantly meowing, but he then makes them talk as they meow. And Doug has a different voice because he was adopted, and he's always off camera, and you just hear him kind of like, yeah, I don't want to do that anymore. It's really creative, and I can't remember why. It's shorts. And so, but I can't tell you the name of the comedian that's making Doug and the Business Cats. It's a, I like him. I will always click on his stuff, but if somebody told me where to go, because in shorts, people aren't going, visit me at my website at such and such and such. And there's no button. If you click on a short, it doesn't take you to their website. It takes you usually to their channel. So shorts are great for keeping people aware of your brand. I don't think they're very good at getting people to your actual stuff. You know what I mean? You build a
I agree.
It's
I agree. Listen, they suck you in with the numbers, right? To Mark's point, you throw some reels out there, shorts, whatever you want to call them, and you see some engagement numbers pop up because they get fed in. And as soon as you create them, right, at least as we looked at the algorithm and some of the results for some of those, we worked on this, I don't know, 9 months ago. You get this massive engagement spike at the very beginning for the first couple hours, let's say hours 3, 4, 6, whatever. And then it would drop off pretty solidly, right? And so you can kind of see the algorithm work to, hey, new video, let's test it. So it's going out there, let's test it. If it doesn't get the engagement that it's looking for, it drops it. Just kind of drops it out of the reels, and you see very little engagement for a while. So for a lot of folks, those numbers, those early engagement numbers, are kind of, I don't want to say dishonest, but they lead to the wrong conclusion. You're being, your video, and in some cases, it's what you're looking for. Your video is getting out there and eyeballs are on it, right? For whatever length of time that you actually think they're there, right? But is it generating, like you said, is it generating real engagement for those people to come back to your site? You might see more downloads on a reel than you've ever seen to a podcast.
Right.
And all of a sudden you get super excited. You're like, oh, everybody's looking at my stuff. Yeah, but zero engagement.
Yeah.
Like you still do it. I'm not saying you don't do it. I'm just saying have realistic expectations with some of these. What I think you're hoping to do at the end of the day is convert these real views. You're hoping to convert them to something that matters, right? And so you want them to come back to your site, or you want them to buy your product, or you want them to download your YouTube video, or watch the YouTube video or download your podcast. But I think just be careful, especially early in the data on these reels. It can be a little enticing.
Oh yeah.
You're like,
well,
whoa, I saw 10,000 views in an hour. And you're like, okay, yes, you did. They may not even be real. Let's just be clear, right?
and I think
that's the
Randy Black looked this up a while ago. I think a view on YouTube can be like a second. So if a video comes up that you don't want, and you don't click stop quick enough, congratulations. But Chris Stone, I think, nailed it here. Views do not equal engagement. Yeah. And this goes back to this. So we're talking about Doug and the Business Cats. And Rich Graham says, those cats are awesome. It's Dennis something. And then finally, Randy came in. It's Drennan Davis is Doug and the Business Cats. And as soon as I saw it, I was like, oh, yeah, because I always see he has his name ever so slightly washed out in the background of the video, so that somehow subliminally I'm supposed to remember his name, which apparently didn't work. Jeff C., the one and only, YouTube Shorts can point you to your longer form content now that they killed direct links. So yeah, that's like I said, it's kind of interesting. It's you go from short term to long term, and then hopefully the long term has a link for. I know on Reels there's no like show notes. There's nothing. It's just you click it and it goes.
Listen, Reels are a mess. All that stuff. You're going through it. People are stealing other people's content. There's stuff being done. I now have seen a reel of someone commenting on someone else commenting on someone else's video. Like it used to just be comments of videos. Like, and so you have this really engaged. You can tell like this is horrific. You can tell. I watched this. There's a drummer who's right now real popular on Reels, and this guy can drum, right?
Yeah.
And then now everybody is grabbing his stuff, and they're just saying, well, let's just see what this guy's doing. And so he's doing his thing, and they're making comments on it, and you're like, you don't have a clue what this guy's actually doing. You are literally just trying to rip off his content, right?
Yeah.
Literally just trying to rip it off. Now, is it good for the guy who's getting ripped off brand to be on another person's reel to get that people find him that way? There is a little bit of branding associated with this, right? The more your face or the more your brand is showing up in front of people isn't a bad thing. So if people are ripping off your content and it goes viral on somebody else's channel, that's not necessarily a bad thing for you if you're looking for that branding piece, unless it's branded improperly. But whatever. Okay, let's just say it is what it is from that standpoint. But yeah, these reels are getting out of control.
Yeah,
and you kind of go, what are we doing here? So
what's the purpose?
What's the point?
I know the guy you're talking about because there's this guy from
Big Beard,
and he amazing
he can
drummer.
Make the drum on. Yeah.
And there are people now that are watching his videos going, I don't understand how he does it. That's amazing. He's so good. And what drives me nuts about those kind of videos is they rarely, if ever, link to the original video. Because I'm like, I want more of that guy. I don't need you going, wow, that's good. I'm like, I don't understand.
Or are helpful. They're not helpful.
I don't
like. They literally aren't helpful.
Reaction videos make my brain hurt. I don't need you to go and make lots of faces like, and it's like opera singer listens to Freddie Mercury. Oh, let me guess. She's going to say he has a good voice, or what. And it's just like, I don't get it. And what's always funny is the opera singer is always hot. Like if it's a reaction video, a lot of times the person doing the reaction, what a coinkydink, is really, really attractive. On either side of whether it's male or female, I always love, don't get me going. But there are times when I
got you going already.
I totally understand please don't, women are more than just TNA and we're more, look at our brains. And then you have some female who's just an amazing guitar player, but every time she plays the guitar, it's in a tube top cut down to her hoonanny nanny and her guitar is pushing her boobs up. And I'm like, wait, you want me to, and I'm like, okay. But on the other hand, the thumbnail got me to click. And I'm like, that drives me nuts. Same thing on Yahoo. Anything on Yahoo.
Listen, guys do this too, just to be fair. Right. I mean, for your and my generation, the whole David Lee Roth.
Oh.
Big hair, skimpy clothes, cut, come on. So we'll be fair on that one. I put in chat, we're a little bit of like, get off my lawn on this.
Yeah.
But yeah, well yeah.
So
keep going.
Dan has a question. Shorts do more to build your YouTube brand more than your own. Agree or disagree? So let me read that again without actually butchering it. Shorts do more to build your YouTube brand more than your own. That's a good question. It does get you.
I would say, depending on how you're making these shorts, if you're listen, a short is really just an opportunity for clickbait. That's all it really is. And some of these things they're doing, the shocking stuff or the way they make these shorts. I would think for some of them that where there's no brand associated, but it's really just kind of shocking or whatever. Yeah, then that's just because that stuff is a little adrenaline. You're doing the death scroll, you're going through checking it, and then you see one and you're like, a bridge collapsing or a car running into something. And there's a little bit of entertainment in there that sucks us in. We like watching those kinds of things. Now, are they valuable at all? No. They're not valuable. I mean, it's sheer entertainment. That's what keeps you on the platform. So that benefits the platform, right? But if you've got some content that really draws folks in, some good branding, the comedians probably do this better than anybody right now. The comedians are doing a really good job of using these reels to get their content out. That's brand building. I think that's better for them.
Well, and we have clarification, not your YouTube brand, but YouTube's brand itself.
Yeah.
Shorts
Yeah,
didn't
that's what
help
I was
you
talking
remember
about.
the comedian, but you remember it was on YouTube Shorts. Ah, there you go. It is a
Yeah,
thing.
well, it keeps you there in the moment because you get addicted. Like those videos create, those are the ones that create the addiction, is those silly, crazy,
Right.
whatever, goofy, whatever. And that's what keeps you scrolling. That keeps you on there. So, yeah, that's what I was referring to, Dan, is I think those kinds of videos build the YouTube brand or whatever you're on. Listen, that's just, YouTube is just McDonald's, Instagram is just Burger King.
Yeah.
It's the same stuff.
It
Right?
is.
I stole that. I stole that from another comedian, by the way.
I
So.
watch Doug and the Business Cats both on Facebook Reels and YouTube. It's like wherever they are, I'm like, oh look, it's Newton Frog. Click, and then the thing that I don't get about reaction videos is it'll be like rappers hear Stevie Ray Vaughan for the first time, and I'm like, okay, like when I hear a really good guitar player, at the most engaged I'm going to get, I might play a little air guitar. These guys are falling out of their chairs. Like they're throwing things. They're like, whoa, holy what? And the headphones go flying. And I'm like, I'm sorry, that's not a reaction. That's called mugging for the camera. And, you're just trying to see which big face with your tongue hanging out is going to make the thumbnail. That's the part that it's got the, we could talk about this word later if we want to. It's got the authenticity, which apparently is such a buzzword now that it makes people vomit, but there's no authenticity of that. It's just simply, and at the 18-minute mark, I will throw the popcorn into the air and you do a spit take into me and it'll be a great video. Somebody mentioned the other day, I was watching a video and this guy was talking about how busy he was. And he goes, I run a 6-figure social whatever company, whatever. And he goes, so I'm always working. And as he's saying this, it's B-roll of him with his laptop and his headphones on, doing a Zoom call, walking through the airport, carrying a bag. And we said, do you realize that he had to look at his friend and go, hey, can you do me a favor? I'm going to walk through the airport here. Can you film me for like 4 seconds so I look busy? And we're just like, wow, that's, that's a whole different thing.
Or worse yet, the camera was on a tripod. He had to go out, set it up, get it set. Then he had to walk back, right? Then he had to roll through that camera to make it look like he was doing it. Then he had to stop, come back to the camera,
and say, that's a good shot. Yeah.
Oh, that's a good shot.
Let me do this again one more time, but this time, get me from the side. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. That's the bane of the YouTuber, right?
Yeah.
Of having to set up these walking shots or driving shots. And they always say, hey, look, anytime I'm doing something on YouTube, it takes me 4 times longer to do it because I've got to set up all the shots, then I got to shoot the shots, then I got to go back and take down the cameras that I set up to set up the shots, right? Like no wonder you guys don't get anything done.
Yeah. We got somebody in the waiting room. Let me blow through some of these comments here. Chris Stone, our best YouTube videos are the ones that have 40 to 50 questions and comments. They're far greater watch time than some with higher views. Views are drive-by engagement. It's when people stop by to chat, and then Jeff C says, I agree. Those he wants the ones that get people to click. Those are the ones that he says, get him to make some money here. So,
and Dave, before we bring the guest on, let me finish this thought. If you guys wanted to help us out, I mean, we always appreciate the super chats and you guys being here live on Saturdays and the listeners on the podcast and some of those kinds of things. But if we wanted to do an experiment and for the next 3 or 4 weeks, you guys wanted to pop over to YouTube and make a comment on the video. That would change on YouTube. That changes the algorithm. And all of a sudden, now listen, we get a couple hundred views on YouTube. It's not a ton. We may see some more on that. But those YouTube comments matter. I mean, they are really, that plays into their algorithm in a lot of ways. We've talked about this before, but there's always folks who are like, they'll throw out a controversial question and leave it in chat, down below. listen, our audience, our podcasters, they don't natively listen or watch a lot of things or a lot of this kind of content, or even us on YouTube. Although many of you are on YouTube right now, I wonder what would happen, Dave, if we one week said, hey, chat is going to be in the YouTube comments. Now, that being said, that's a terrible experience for live. It's terrible.
Yeah.
Let's just be clear. It's terrible. You guys would hate us for that.
Right.
But it would help the engagement of that video if we joke about this all the time, but that actually, I mean, comments work on YouTube.
Yeah.
If you can get them.
Oh, I know. Philip
Philip
DeFranco's a guy who does a news show, and you would get drunk if you had a drinking game where he's like, I'd really love to know what you think. Leave your comments in the, leave your thoughts in the, he says that 800 times a show, leave your thoughts in the comments. And I was like, that must help. Cause yeah,
it does.
Yeah.
No, it does.
But,
it does, yeah.
Coming to the stage, his name on, Zoom says Eva and Harris. So I'm going to guess this is Harris. I could be wrong. And I've clicked. Oh, this is just one of those days where everything's on like a 5-second delay.
Testing.
Yeah, I can hear. I can hear you. We just can't see you yet.
Okay.
Come on, 3-person field. Come on up, baby. I'm hitting the button. It's turning green. There we go. Finally.
Hi there.
How are you?
Very good, thank you, Dave. Hi, Jim. I'm actually the dad of Eva and Harris.
Well, there you go. Even better.
What's your tell us your name?
Sam. And
Sam. All right, Sam.
Sam, Uncle Sam. I pod faded, but I'm looking to get back into it.
Okay.
And in all honesty, it's for a little bit of extra income.
Okay.
So I had a niche podcast in a area of photography.
Okay.
And I want to know about, obviously, digital products and affiliate marketing would be the two main generators of income as far as I'm aware of.
Yeah.
And I wanted to know obviously, to get the affiliate links, they have to be on your website. And Dave, you mentioned about 3% is going to be clicking over.
Yeah. Now that can, I'm right now, I've got to reach out to him. He might be in the chat room. Ray from Around the Layout does a show about model trains. And Ray should be like the poster child for like engaged audience because he gets like double-digit interaction. And I'm like, so it is possible, but it's a really, really tight niche. And he does all sorts of really cool stuff to hang out with his community. But yeah, usually it's around 3%.
Okay. So that's a very small percentage. And is that, I guess, is the only way to get people to get your affiliate code is for them to go to your website and have them click on that link. Right.
This is where, and again, I work there, but Podpage, and you can do this in WordPress as well. If you can do something like, go to askthepodcastcoach.com/sponsors. Now that has Mark, it has Dan, it has me, and it has me. So I have 4 sponsors on that page, 2 of which are me. But that way it reinforces your brand. And people have to remember one link. So instead of like, go to mattressite.com/Dave or go to davesite.mattress, it's like, no, go to askthepodcastcoach.com/sponsors. Then we also have askthepodcastcoach.com/support or awesome. Support. Actually, when I think about it, something like that, make it easier to do that.
Jim, you may know, but can you have multiple affiliate links for the same product? Do certain companies say, if you have us, you can't list anybody else for that same product as well?
I don't know that I've run into that. Have you, Jim?
I think that it depends on the terms. I haven't seen a lot where they say you can only be our affiliate if we're exclusive.
Right.
I have not seen that. I'm not saying it doesn't exist. I just haven't seen that a lot in the affiliate space. They generally in the affiliate space, most brands are fairly hands off on their affiliate. Amazon is a little bit is a little different on this. Amazon's very aggressive about their affiliates. Like you have some rules and they follow up on you and regularly ban people for breaking the rules. So you got to be kind of careful on the Amazon side. But most affiliates are kind of hands off, and you could have multiple. You're doing cameras, so maybe you have Canon and Sony, and you have a link. I know they don't have affiliate programs, but let's just say for the sake.
Well, for argument's sake, let's say B&H Photo
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
Adorama,
Yeah,
or
none of that in those cases. In most of those cases, you can have all of those together if you want, right?
Yeah,
You
so you
can,
have a string basically saying for the pricing in store A, click here. For pricing in store B, click here. For pricing in store C, click here.
well, I mean, you could. I mean, what often happens for affiliate marketing for most people, I think, and what most people see successful is you're talking about a product and then you link that somewhere in the media so they can click on it and follow through. You don't you don't necessarily want to confuse them with all the different pricing options. I don't think with affiliate, like I don't know if you'd want to have a page where you'd want to list all the products at the different site from a comparative standpoint. Now, you could,
Right.
but here's what happens, right? You with a consumer, if you give them too many choices, choices equal confusion. They
Okay.
get confused pretty soon. They're like, "Oh, wait a minute, I could get this somewhere else." And then they click on, and then pretty soon they've left your ecosystem, right? And so you just have to be careful not to give them too many choices in the process because you want them to click a link and buy it, obviously, at B&H or buy it
Right.
at whatever the link that you have it at. So just be careful you're not giving them too many, or you make them jump through too many hoops to get there, right? Dave,
So an A and B.
So
then,
this
most
is
likely.
this is a
yeah,
this is
mostly
a
A, mostly A.
Okay.
yeah. So
Yeah,
this
mostly A.
this is a page. What we're looking at is
Mhm.
a page for a boom arm, and you can see where it says you can get this on Sweetwater, Amazon, B&H, Autorama, or whatever that is, and Walmart. And then down here it says commissions may be earned from these links above. This is a tool I use called Genius Link. And what it allows you to do, like if I look at this one for the new Podtrak P2, I can see there's my affiliate link from Sweetwater. So that's got the affiliate link built into it because right now Sweetwater doesn't kind of have a built-in tool. B&H, I just put in whatever my affiliate ID is, and I can put a kind of normal link to B&H, and they will switch it out for the affiliate link. And then you can figure out, you can add more links. Like sometimes, especially with books, it'll say, oh, there's more stores that offer this product. And then you say, okay, go ahead and do that. And so in the case of that boom arm we were just looking at, it's not on the front page, but you can it's super simple. And then they give you this link, and then that leads to, this page. And then the good news is I don't really care where you order it from because all of those are affiliate links. But you can, to me, I've got 5 on this one. And it is weird because, like, who would buy a boom arm at Walmart because it's $99? But this is what happens. And somebody goes, well, wait a minute, what is it at Sweetwater? And then you're like, oh, it's only $79. I'll buy it here. So I guess in a way they feel like they're getting a deal, even if it's, the same thing. But it's the best $6 I spend every month because that's the wrong thing. We need
And plus,
this one.
you're also dropping a cookie on their computer.
Yeah.
If they
Yeah,
go
they
back
are.
to those
They are.
sites.
Yeah.
Yes, they are.
So
Yeah, and that's actually a strategy, right? Of hey, now that cookie so say in Dave's situation, they go to Walmart and click on it, and like, oh wait a minute, I can go to B&H. So they go to B&H and they see it's 79. Oh, that's great. They're not going to stop there. They're going to check all of
Right.
the boxes, right? Now that cookie is set for whatever length of time. For some people, that's spammy, right? That feels like, and people know this now, right?
Do they?
And they do. Oh, well, maybe not everyone, but
Yeah.
it to me, like, and maybe because I'm in the industry, when I see that kind of thing, I kind of go, and then I'm going to check off. It's not for me. It's not a great experience. I would rather, hey, look, this is where I purchased this. This is the link. You can choose to do it other ways. That's just me.
Yeah.
Right. Maybe for you, Sam, you're okay with that. I don't like that user experience.
Yeah. I
Personally.
do know when I got kicked out of Amazon, that hurt my affiliate. Like there are a lot of people that are very comfortable buying things at Amazon. And I was like, look,
Oh, for sure.
it's Sweetwater.
Yeah,
It's
sure.
a cheaper price. It's free shipping. And there's candy and tech support. And people are like, do you have an affiliate link for Amazon? I'm like, oh, you're killing me. Come on. So, yeah. And that's why that's another reason why I use that tool. Trying to understand Amazon's terms of service, have fun with that. Because about the time you think you got it, like you can't put support this show, and then put an Amazon link. Even though if you buy from Amazon, you're helping to support the show. And you can't say that because that breaks your terms of service. So it's like you just have to go, just for a random reason, I've put an Amazon link here. There's nothing to do, nothing to see here, but there's an Amazon. It's the weirdest terms of service.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just like, okay. And then just anytime.
Do you happen to know of somebody who knows the affiliates world for Amazon and what their do's and don'ts are?
Yeah.
That you would recommend to look into?
Genius Link. There's a post on their web. They have a blog, and it was amazing. Like, you can't put Amazon affiliate links in a newsletter, but you can. But you can put a Genius Link that then leads to a page that says, "Oh, by the way, I might get compensated for that." And Genius Link is not how you think you're going to spell it. I put a link to it in the show notes as well. It's because Genius is GEN. I forget which. I think they leave out the O.
IUS, GENIUS.
Yeah, I think that's how they do.
Link.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
and so it's I interviewed the guy. I have a show called More Podcast Money, which has been on hiatus for quite a bit, but I interviewed that guy, and there was like, here are the 10 things that get people kicked out of Amazon, and I think I'd done 4. And I was like, oh, okay. Like, one, I knew, like, you're not allowed to use iframes. And I accidentally did one. Like, it was just straight up accident. And the guy, and what was weird is I got somebody on the phone from Amazon. And I'm like, oh, you're right. Hold on. And I'm like, and I switched out the code and published it. And I go, you can see it's gone now. And he's like, oh yeah, good job. Thanks. And I go, so I'm back in? And he's like, no, Kevin has to approve you. And I'm like, okay. So let Kevin know I fixed it. And Kevin looked at me and went, no, and just gave me the old thumbs down. And I was like, well, screw you, Kevin. And what was really weird about that is I like to be honest. It's something that's kind of a trait of mine that I try to do, I know. And I signed back up with the exact same email, and they let me in. And I was like, what was the whole purpose of that? Besides the fact that all the commissions I had earned that month just went up in flames. Thanks, Amazon. But it was, so I'm like, I don't, and like all my newsletters now have a affiliate disclaimer at the top of the newsletter, because that's an FTC thing. The FTC, if I hold up a thing and say, wow, I love this water bottle from Awala, and I get paid for this, and don't say, oh, by the way, I just got paid to hold this up and go, this is my favorite water bottle of all time. Yeah, I can get in all sorts. It got Kim Kardashian fined a lot because she was doing that. Like, ooh, look, I love snack pack pudding or whatever it was. And she didn't say she was getting paid for that.
Well, now with some changes going on in the government, I wonder if they'll be as diligent going after people.
Probably not. Just my commentary. Daniel does say in the chat, he says that he was talking to somebody from Genius Link, and they said that choice pages that you and I were talking about actually convert better than direct links. So, okay, there you go. That may be again, I don't like it. That's not my preference. That's not the way. Now, if I had a gear page and I was laying out individual pieces of gear and I could have that, hey, you've got 3 or 4 choices to do that. Okay. Yeah, maybe. I have to think about that one.
Yeah.
But I don't like to give people choices. Usually confuse people. Then they start asking questions.
Right.
Then they question, should I even do this? Right. And so it's right. I mean, it's just, I've watched so many people, especially with technology things, where they'll ask a question, you start explaining it to them, you're like, oh, here's the complexity of it. And then they're like, yeah, I don't want to do this anymore. Like, and so it just is with some of these, I get the idea of giving the consumer some choice. If they want choice, they're going to go bargain shop anyways. For most of them, I just want them they just want to click and buy.
Yeah.
That's all they want to do.
So anyways, Uncle Marv,
you can make that decision.
Yeah. Uncle Marv says sponsors might ask for exclusivity. Yeah, that's true. And Chris Stone, who does Dealcasters, he does a live stream on Amazon. So that's a whole other fun game where you can be an Amazon influencer, I think is the name of the program. And Daniel says,
Sam, are you going to, go ahead.
Daniel says, I was talking to someone about Genius Link and they said, choice pages. There you go. When you said Daniel, I thought you meant Dan from based on a true story podcast.
Oh no.
Yeah. SP says some people prefer Amazon due to zero interest financing on their store card. Yeah, that's true too. The old credit card.
Sam, what are you going to do? So when you with photography, big, giant, lots of. What are
I
you
have a
going to do?
niche part of it,
Okay.
yes.
Yeah. And what do you just tell? What do you have an idea where you're going to go on this thing?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I did have a podcast and it faded, and I said I got to bring it back, and it's aerial photography.
Okay.
I'll stop at that.
Nice.
A sub niche of aerial photography specifically.
Okay. All right, good.
Excellent.
Yeah. Then listen, the niche can be really, really valuable, but I think you got to go all the way on a niche. Like the tighter you get on your content, the more into it you have to be. The train,
absolutely.
Yeah.
the train guy that Dave was mentioning, he's all in.
Yeah.
Right. All in. And I think it's if you try to go niche and you try to go casual, people the people smell that out pretty quick. They want to be, because the folks you want to reach, they're the all in people, right? They're 100% in, and you better be there with them.
And convincing them why they need to be all in, and it's a tool in their toolbox for their other main business. And
And
no, right on. You don't need to give it away. I understand why you're doing. I understand why you're doing what you're doing. I see some folks wanting to start podcasts that are very nichey, very tight, and then they're kind of lukewarm on the subject themselves, and they're like, oh man, I don't know if there's enough to talk about for a whole year's worth of podcasts. And you're like, no, if you were really all in, you'd have no trouble talking about this thing over and over, and that audience wants to hear it. Oh, they want their biases confirmed over and over and over. So I just say, if you're gonna listen, that in those audience, they buy things. Like once you're in the niche, they buy things.
And speaking of buying things,
got to be all the way in.
Yes. Yeah. Speaking of buying things, one of the things Sam should buy is this: the book "Profit from Your Podcast: Proven Strategies to Turn Listeners into a Life." I did, and
wow,
you can find that at profitfromyourpodcast.com.
Like I passed the ball right to you, and you
/book.
I love it.
Yeah, excellent. Anything else, Sam?
One last thing, I guess, to be also on this topic of some financing is the digital products. I'm sure it'll be in that book. There's a whole chapter to your own personal digital products.
Well, there's that, but there's also the audio book, because the book is 4 years old now ish. And I kind of say, hey, everything I said in the book is now outdated. So in the book, I was talking Thinkific and Teachable. And now the one that, if you want a community, Heartbeat all day long, because you can sell courses there. In fact, I just moved all my courses to Heartbeat. But there is a website, he said, behind the scenes looking for the affiliate link, because, that's how I roll. And I'm not saying this because they have an affiliate link, but I was like, wait, it's so cheap. I was kind of like, what's the catch? They do have that. It's called Pensight, PENSIGHT. Links will be in the show notes and in the chat. It's $29 a month. And I was like, okay, $29, because Zenler was the cheapest one I've been using for courses and stuff, and it was $60. And I'm like, this is $30. I'm like, oh, let me guess. I have to bring my own Vimeo account or something. Like, nope, no, we host the videos. And I'm like, okay. And there's email. It's kind of like Kajabi Lite. Like, it does email, it does a community, it does digital products, it does coaching, it does. And I'm like, but it's $29. And they're like, yep. And I looked, and it's like, it's one dude in London and another guy in San Francisco. And they're really good on their support. Mark Lawley from practicalprepping.info, a member of the School of Podcasting, he's like, well, I'm kicking the tires on it. He was using Teachable. And he's like, he's been using them for probably a couple of months now. And he's like, yeah, he goes, it's $29. I'm saving $40 a month by using these guys. And I'm like, okay. So that would be something. There's also Hip Pay or Pay Hip. I can never remember which one it is. But if you come back to the show after it's over, if you come back around 2:00, I'll have links to those in the show notes. But Pensight's the one that I go, if I was... I moved all of my courses. It's not official yet, but I'm moving my courses from Zenler, which was $60 a month, to Heartbeat, because I'm already using Heartbeat for the community. And Heartbeat didn't have courses when I first started using them. I used them for the community. And then of course, like 2 months later, hey, we added courses. And I'm like, oh, I just put all my courses over here. And I'm like, I'm not moving, because when you move, the easy part is uploading all the videos. The fun part is notifying all the affiliates that, hey, you know that link you've been using for 2 years? Yeah, you got to change it again. And then you got to redo the sales page unless you're using some sort of third-party sales page and things like that. So that's, but I'm a big Heartbeat fan, but Pensight seems to be a legit deal. It's just cheaper than everybody else.
And one last quick thing before I say
Sure.
thanks again is you mentioned Chris Stone was doing stuff on Amazon Live.
Yeah, Dealcasters. If you look for Chris Stone Dealcasters and Jeff, his co-host, I can see his face. But yeah, Dealcasters, Chris Stone will get you to wherever.
I'll check it out to see how they're doing it and
yeah,
get some feel for doing that as well.
Well, and Chris is a great guy. You can castahead.net is Chris's video production / podcast consulting / editing / Chris does everything. And Chris is the guy. He and Jeff got me into Ecamm and got me into Genius Link, and yeah, they're good guys. So
very good. Dave, Jim, thanks very much. Appreciate it.
Yep.
Sam, great to meet you.
Have
Thanks
a good
for
one.
coming on.
Have a great day.
You too.
Is it because of Zoom that we now have people coming in? Like, we got Mark back. That was cool. So
maybe so. You never know.
Maybe
it's whatever it is. It's good.
Yeah, maybe
it's good.
Maybe there were people before that were just sitting outside waiting. Oh, Rich forgot. Gumroad's another good one. Doesn't charge you anything. Pensight. Let me look up the one. I want to say it's PayHip. Yeah, PayHip is another one. I just did a thing in the Podpage newsletter, because the nice thing about these is when they are free and they only take a percentage when you make a sale, it's a great way to test an idea. Like, hey, I'm going to make this product. I can, make the product and sell it here. Where if you're using a, Shopify, or, some of these stores, it's like $30 a month just to have the store, whether you sell anything or not. Now, the good news is they don't take a percentage, but if you haven't proven that your actual audience wants this yet, then something like a PayHip or a Pensight can work. Daniel
Dave,
said,
you've put a lot of affiliate marketing links in the chat. If someone couldn't keep up with that, was there one site that you have where they could go and find all your affiliate links?
Yeah, if you go to schoolofpodcasting.com and click on the word about, it will say something like, it's like, is it My Gear About? No, it says affiliate. Oh, there you go. I named it appropriately. Wait for it. Affiliate links. And so you will see things there for Sweetwater and B&H and Amazon and Resound and Note Tracks, and a couple places for guest booking, for royalty-free music, for web hosting, for web tools, for website tools, which apparently, how is that different than web tools? We don't know, but
are all these links like Genius Link and Pensight?
Yeah, I'm looking to see.
Are they all there too?
I'm looking. I'm like, there's media hosting. Most of these are on here, to be honest. AI tools, media hosting, calendar tools, remote recording, email lists, personalized videos, video editors, line.
Okay, I'm going to write that down. I'm going to write that down. Tell that to me one more time. Where do I?
Schoolofpodcasting.com/affiliate links. It's a long list, and you know what's not on
affiliate links.
Yeah, you know what's not on. Oh, there it is. Course creation tools: Pensight, Teachable, Zenler, Podia, and Thinkific. I need one for digital products, so I could put HipPay and Gumroad is another one that they don't take anything until you actually make some money. So Daniel says, I prefer to sell everything through my own WordPress site, and it looks pretty. It really does. I use easy digital downloads or LearnDash for courses. Yeah, if you're a WordPress person, I got to do my favorite exercise, because there are some Friday nights I'm like, hey, it's Friday, it's the weekend. What are we doing tonight? And the answer is turning off all your plugins and turning them on one at a time, because your website is doing. I was using Elementor, which is a great tool, and I couldn't get it to do what I want. I'm like, you know what? Never mind. I'm just going to start with a brand new page, not made in WordPress, converted to Elementor. I'm going to start in Elementor and do an Elementor page. And I just said, this is my headline, and said, preview it. And it said, this is my headline. This is my headline twice. And I was like, okay, that's not supposed to do that. And it was some plugin that I had that was causing it to do that. And I was like, this is why I love Podpage. Like no plugin conflicts. No.
It is easy.
Yeah.
It is easy.
Now, not quite as flexible as Elementor, but I was like, so.
No, and he's got a lot of options. Like, I logged in the other day. It had been a while since I've been over there, and it was a little overload on. Like, I remember I got into Podpage early, and it was pretty simple. And now you go over there, and you're like, oh yeah, I do need to look through these options before, and then some are paid, some different ones on higher pay plans and such, and so it's full featured, that's for sure.
Yeah, I am working on
definitely full featured
right now based on audience feedback. It is gonna. I think I'm just gonna call it getting the most out of Podpage, because there are features that people just aren't even aware of. One of my favorites is we have a thing called an episode footer, where you go in and you can put, hey, sign up here to, sit in our webinar. It's coming in April, blah, blah, blah. And then in May, after the webinar is over, you can go to that same place and say, click here to buy the recording of the webinar we did in April. And it populates across your entire website because it's put at the bottom of every episode, hence episode footer. And I just think that now it's not in apps, it's only on your website. But I'm like, that's for me, I love that feature. And nobody knows it exists. And I was like, okay, we need to figure that out because it's cool. And you know what else is cool? Our awesome supporters. It's so weird how sometimes this button is like right on and other times I'm waiting forever. But yeah, if you want to be an awesome supporter, go over to askthepodcastcoach.com/awesome and you can join for many different levels. If you're $20, you'll get your name on the wheel of names, which we'll see here in a second. But this show is also brought to you by the schoolofpodcasting.com. You just heard where I am moving some things and adding some things at the School of Podcasting, and we're always making sure it's up to date and all sorts of fun stuff. You get courses, you get unlimited coaching, and a really kick-butt community. Use the coupon code COACH when you sign up, and that comes with a 30-day money-back guarantee. I just mentioned Podpage. If you want to try Podpage, it's simple. Go to trypodpage.com. You get a 14-day free trial, and on day 15, you can still tweak it. It's just your website won't be public anymore. So check that out. We're using Ecamm today, and the cool thing about Ecamm is it integrates with Zoom, which apparently makes it easy to join. So they're adding new stuff. They just came out with version 4.4. We're not using any of the new features, but if we switch from kind of one screen to another, we could have like people zoom in and out, and they've added some animation tools and some other things that I haven't even looked into yet. So that's a program that's always being upgraded. And if you need more Jim Cullison, and who doesn't, doggone it. And the one thing I've noticed, Jim, on this, which is weird, is if I look on the Zoom screen where you are, your Nebraska shirt, which is white outlined black letters, is hideous on Zoom right now. It's just, it's got that whole weird TV thing.
Yeah.
And so it's...
but clear going out. That's all that matters.
Yeah.
Clear going out.
Yeah. But check out Jim over at theaverageguy.tv and his show, Home Gadget Geeks. And I think I'm going to try this. Did I set this up? And survey says no. We're going to go over here.
Oops.
I did that last night, but it apparently overnight. Oh, because I rebooted. Good. And we should have the screen there it is. Wow, it's just everything is so slow. So is it going to be Ralph from AskRalph.com or Chris from castahead.net, JohnMuntz.com? Is it Glenn from Horse Radio Network? Who is it going to be? Well, I'm going to click on go. It spins around. Where it lands, nobody knows. It really can't be Glenn again. It's Glenn again. I even waited till he went by. Oh, wait, it's still, ooh. For a second, I thought we were going to get Shane.
Rigged. It's rigged.
It is rigged. Glenn the Geek Hebert over
rigged.
horseradionetwork.com. And if you like horsies, go check out Glenn. Glenn did a really cool thing that I was really happy of, not to bring the party down, but we did an online service for Neil Galarte, who passed away a couple weeks ago, and they had a service.
That's nice.
And Glenn and Chris over at Podfest did an online kind of memorial, so we could all get together and cry. It was, but I know I felt better afterwards. So, which is a very narcissistic thing to say when you're talking about someone dying, but it was just like, I needed to cry with my friends.
Yes.
But if this show, the one you're listening to right now, if we are saving you time, or saving you money, saving you headaches, are we keeping you educated? Are we, stopping you from mowing the lawn right now because you just don't want to do it? Well, then you can give back some of that value by going to askthepodcastcoach.com/awesome. And I mentioned, we're going to switch gears here. See, I just clicked on screen. I'm like, show the screen. I even rebooted because I really wanted to avoid this.
Are you on the Mac?
I am on the Mac. I'm not sure what's going on.
Should not be that slow.
Yeah.
Should not be that slow.
I need to shut down or whatever. But this is the new toy in town. It's the Zoom Podtrak. I might buy one because there's a part of me that goes, it's $100. But $99 is still $99. But it's, if you ever have people like, hey, my friend and I bought two USB microphones. We can't get them to work on our laptop. And then you get into voice meter banana on a PC, which is actually the name of the thing. And this, you plug two USB microphones into it. It's got a tone button, which is kind of a bass boost and sibilance reduction. AI noise reduction will kind of get rid of the, air conditioner in the background. A compressor will kind of level things out. You got mute buttons. You got a volume knob for the headphones, which are down here. And the cool thing is it runs on it. You can buy an electric cord that'll, be 5 volts in, like a typical USB-C kind of thing. But I did see this morning, so here's where you plug it in, you get yourself a cable, and then it runs on a micro SD card. You plug your USB cable or your USB microphone into there, and it even runs on batteries. So, those times when you want to, record your podcast live from the woods, I guess. But I could see it as a travel kind of thing, companion. The one thing I was looking for, and I finally found the manual, and either A, they didn't put it in there, or it's not 32-bit float, and which I was kind of surprised because everything Zoom has been putting out has been 32-bit float, but it does, you have another input there. So if you want to plug your phone in, you could bring people in that way. Or if you had a laptop, you could bring, you could get somebody on Zoom and plug the laptop into that. And then it gives you separate tracks. It gives you your track, person number 2, and then the phone, and then it will give you a combined version of all of those. So, and just like the P4, it's got built-in mix minus. So I'm excited that they came out with this. I just keep thinking, when are they coming out with the P4 32-bit float, better preamps maybe? Not that the preamps in the P4 are bad. And yeah, Mark says, does it only do USB mics? And I'm like, yeah, that's the part that made me scratch my head. But that's also why it's so small. But I was like, because when I saw it, I was like, what the heck? And SP, will AI noise reduce on the Zoom P2 mute your co-host so it doesn't have to do this in the post? I don't know. I do know it was interesting on Zoom's actual video on AI reduction. I think they're in somebody's kitchen and the dishwasher is on. And so they hit the AI, noise reduction, and it does reduce it. It does not eliminate it. I was like, oh, okay. So it went from into the background to, I'm like, oh, okay. It toned it down, but it didn't get rid of it. So I was like, that's not really as impressive as what I was looking for. Todd the Gator says, I love my P4. I love my P4. I recommend that thing. I emailed him and said, hey, I have, recommended the P4 forever. Can I get one of these to play with? Because I want to play with their app. There's some sort of app. And I could not find a manual for it. I did this morning, so I must have been a little early. Mark says, poo. Yes, I'm with you. Poo on the P2 that it doesn't. But again, there's some people that, and Randy says all USB mics in the Zoom video, they're like, I think they said most USB. So they left the door open to go, oh, we support all USB mics, well, except yours. But it doesn't have to be like a, Zoom microphone or something like that. But speaking of niche, yeah, it does solve a niche problem. So it's like when somebody goes, well, we both bought, Samsung Q2Us. How do we plug these into the laptop? You're like, oh, here you go, $99. So yeah. So it should be interesting to see what they're coming out with. Because I asked the first of all, here's something. Wait a minute, we haven't done one of these in a while.
And now it's time for a power rant.
Here's the bottom line of customer service. You ready for this? When you put something on your website that says contact us using this email or contact us using this form, maybe within, I don't know, let's go crazy, a week, maybe within a week. It'd be great if it was 24 hours, but let's be realistic. Okay, 48, 72 hours. It'd be nice if you emailed me back. That would, to me, I would be like, that's good. But when you make me wait 3 months to get a reply, I'm working on a thing right now about running your podcast as a business. And I found 2 companies that would be really, really, like, they would fit this niche. And I emailed them both. And I literally have to beg people. Like the one, I reached out to the PR person, and then I reached out to their customer service. And I'm like, hey, I'm trying to get anybody to, like, I have one question, can you do this? Nothing. And so the one, I finally went over, because I was applying, I saw they had an affiliate program, and I'm like, hey, you seem to be really good. And I finally put application for affiliate 3rd attempt. And so finally, after a month, they replied a month, because I applied on February 11th. And they're like, yeah, we will get back to you. And I'm like, but you just read my email. Can you not say yes or no? No, they're like, oh yeah, we got it. Sometimes it takes a while. And I'm like, yeah, also, I figured that out. And so I say that to say, when I emailed Zoom and said, hey, the person that I used to deal with at Zoom apparently no longer works there. Can you get me in touch with someone from marketing? And their support team, within less than 24 hours, said, oh yeah, here, use this email. And I was like, oh, this does exist. It's not a unicorn. There are people that actually answer their emails. So kudos to Zoom, kudos to Elementor while we're on that one, because when I was trying to figure this out, I emailed Elementor and I'm like, well, this is going to go into the void. Nope. That was probably 8 hours. They're like, hey, this is Steve. It looks like you have some extra code on your website. You might try turning off your plugins. And I was like, oh yeah, the old turn off your plugins thing. And so, but I just don't get weeks before they reply. And then my favorite was company number 2. I finally got a support person, again, weeks. And I said, hey, I'm trying to get in touch with your affiliate team. I have submitted an application on impact.com. I never got a reply. Do you need more information from me? And they said, oh, I'll try to find somebody. And like literally 4 days later, Amber shows up on Impact that's saying, hey, can you tell me more about your audience? And I did. And I said, please let me know if you need any more information. That was 3 days ago. And I'm still not approved. So I bumped her. Yeah, hey, I don't know if you saw my previous thing. I hate saying that because that's such a spammy thing. But I'm like, yes or no, just let me know. And I kind of finally went, because I hate to be a douche, but I said, if you're not going to approve me, that's fine. That just, you are my first choice. And if it's a no, I'll just go over to this other company, which is your competition, because they have an affiliate program too. It's kind of like, hey, like either approve me, or if I'm going over to these, like, hey, and just nothing. It's just this. And I'm like, as a person that works in customer service, as a person that used to teach customer service, I'm like, this is like, the bar is so low to have good customer service. So anyway, Jim, have you run into that anywhere?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh no, for sure. You get, don't set up an email box and then don't check it. Like, make sure all the time all the time I'm pretty vigilant about.
Yeah.
If I hear somebody say, hey, I contacted you and no one wrote back, I'm like, what email address did you use?
Yeah.
Because I want to track down, hey, is it going into a hole? Is there someone checking that box on a regular basis? It's super easy to set up an email address, contact at your website domain.com. Super easy. But then, is someone checking that thing on a regular basis? Is it somebody's job, yours, or somebody else, to be vigilant about that, to get some alerts? I mean, those are customers who need your help right now, and so make sure that's getting somewhere. It's getting somewhere where people are watching it.
Yeah. I wanted to, and I'm going to try to share my screen again. So there you go. And it comes right back up. I saw this on Reddit, and the person says, I analyzed 3,700 top podcasts, and here's what I found. And so he says, please take a look and see if you find it useful. So he said, number one, podcast episode release cycle. Most podcasts follow a weekly release schedule. So that is, and I'm not sure what the tilde means here, around 52%, I guess. Daily podcasts make up around 30%, while fortnightly, Jim, do you know what I know I should know it.
Every other week.
That's what I thought it meant. Okay.
Yeah.
Release for around 6%. Podcasters who release weekly or daily tend to be consistent. They stick to their schedule 70% of the time. So here's the table. So true crime, 72% weekly release. They are 70% consistent, and 70% are daily, and 5% daily consistency, or 51%, excuse me. And so I noticed that's at the top. So I'm like, wait a minute, true crime, one of the top genres, and they're really consistent. So the question is, are they at the top of the genre because they're really consistent, or, you know what I mean? It's like, but what, and it goes through, going down to the bottom. News is a weekly release, but they're 71% consistent, which is weird because they say there's 17. Oh, so only 70% of news shows do a weekly show, but they're 71% consistent. Then it goes down. The average episode duration is around 49 minutes. Weekly podcasts tend to be slightly longer, around 52 minutes average, and daily podcasts are shorter, around 43 minutes. Who's an hour a day? Holy cow. All right. In the following table, in the arch genre, the average duration is 49 minutes, 10 seconds. Now we're getting down to, well, I was going to go 49:15. I guess that's too long. Most episodes fall between 31 minutes and 55 minutes, so that's a pretty wide range. Weekly released is around 50 minutes. The daily released episode is around 49 minutes, and it goes down, and it breaks this whole thing down. I'll put a link to this in the chat room here. But the one thing as I read this, he says, just to be clear, this is my personal analysis based on publicly available data, and I could be wrong. Thanks for your time. But what kind of worries me about this is the person that goes, oh, wait a minute. The, weekly, if we go up top, true crime is the people that are getting the most listeners, and, their time of, the weekly podcast is around 52 minutes. My show is only 30. So I need to do 22 more minutes of content. And I'm like, this is what has me worried. We are looking at everybody else. That's what we're doing. We're looking at what everybody else is doing. And I'm like, what worries me about stuff like this is people that then change their show trying to be like everybody else, not so much because their audience said, hey, we want it longer, but because, well, everybody else is doing it. And so I saw that and was kind of like, oh, this is interesting. And then I was like, oh, this makes me worry that people are going to now people that do shorter shows are now going to do longer shows because, well, the average is 52. And I'm like, yeah, but if your audience only wants 20 minutes, then you're just going to spend a lot of time making content that doesn't get listened to. So I don't know. Any thoughts on that, Jim?
Yeah, well, I'm thinking about Ted Lasso season 4.
Yeah, I heard that's coming out.
Yeah.
I was like, yay. But
maybe.
I wonder, that's it. I'm like, man, it's kind of like when Michael Jordan came out of retirement. I'm like, are you sure?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's just that it begs that question. I mean, do you listen, it should have a season 4 if they've got some great ideas. But if it's a season 4 because they're like, hey, we could make some money off this thing.
Yeah.
And then it's like, well, what should we do? I don't know. Well, then you have Game of Thrones, right? I mean, that ended so horribly. Just because, it was like, we got to do this. Do we have any ideas? No. We'll just make it up. Like, okay. Yeah, that's not going to end so well. There is something about ending on top, right? And that doesn't apply to this. But I think what does apply is yeah, I mean, take a look at this data and say, okay, are there any insights for me on this and the way I do my show? If I'm gonna, if I'm gonna do something different, then I'm gonna think about it. I'm gonna test it. I'm gonna try it. I'm gonna let the audience weigh in on it. If they don't weigh in on it, then I'm gonna keep going, or I'm gonna stop based on my own personal preference. But yeah, I get a little worried. I'm with you, Dave. These data sets are really, really, really valuable when they're used with other things. I think sometimes we want to hit the easy button and we want to just say, oh, well, it says here 52 minutes and I do mine 30. I'm gonna, start next week. I'm gonna do 52. Well, okay. I mean, you can, because you can do anything you want.
Right.
But do you have a plan to measure the change? Like, is it
Right.
better? Is your audience listening longer? Are you giving it enough time for them to do that? Do you have a feedback mechanism built in? So I still think, don't be careful not to use that one point of data and draw some conclusions and hit the easy button. Then start making changes and wonder why. Well, why isn't this working? They told me it would work.
Yeah.
So
That's
yeah.
Because your audience is your audience. That's who you ask if you want to make it longer or not. Yeah, it depends on your goal. SP says paying. Oh, wait a minute. Yeah, paying the crew for another season might outweigh ending the top on the pending or residuals. He also said somewhere up here about you could end like Seinfeld. Yeah, the thing about Ted Lasso is we were all bummed. We're like, I want more of that show. That was a great show. It made me feel great, and it was so funny. And I want more of the I forget the guy with the beard that was super angry and cussed all the time. He was one of the, and then
Didn't they just call him Beard? Wasn't that his name?
I don't know. No, that was the other coach. Yeah.
Oh,
But anyway,
okay.
Roy something.
Oh yeah,
You
yeah,
know.
yeah.
But yeah, they could really ruin it. So on one hand, this is again where because I've watched Jason Sudeikis on Saturday Night Live, doing the Running Man and I've seen him in movies, and Jason Sudeikis has a good brand where if he's in something, I will watch it, because so far he doesn't do things that suck. And so Ted Lasso was amazing. And so I kind of trust him that he wouldn't come back unless it was going to be good. Now, on the other hand, there are those times. Eddie Murphy has said there was one movie he did, I think it was called Tank or something like that. And he's like, oh yeah, that was pure money grab. He was like, I did that movie for the money. They paid me. They just put so much money on the table. I was like, all right, I'll do it. So I'm hoping he doesn't do an Eddie Murphy. Rich says Arrested Development season 4 was pretty bad. Yeah, when you come back and you've done and you said thank you, good night, and then you come back, that's usually
well, and then there's some, there was some, like, you think about the late Gene Hackman. We just lost him a couple weeks ago. He didn't think Hoosiers was going to be.
Yeah.
Like he said, he thought this was the end of his career. He was like, yeah, I said yes to this. I probably shouldn't have. This movie is going to be a disaster. And it did much better, right, than it is. So, is there a perfect formula? Does sometimes you need to take chances? Are there times you take risks and they pay off? Are there times you take risks and they totally dive? There's no perfect answer on that. Sometimes you just got to try something.
Yeah, and I forget what actor I was watching, and they were saying how it's almost like a unicorn when a movie is really good. They said because you've got the director. They said, but you also have to realize that the editor, even though they're going on the direction of the director, there are editors that'll chop out some of the best parts of the movie for time or whatever it is. And they're like, there's so, like, what gets to the screen sometimes, they're like, you're just amazed that, like, the good parts made it and it worked, and the cinematography and the music, they're like, there's so many parts that can make this go wrong.
And Star Wars is a good example of where the editors saved that movie.
Yeah.
Like, if Lucas would have had his way, I'm not sure there would have been a second one. He would have been like, oh, thanks, George. Make more American Graffiti movies. How about American Graffiti 2? Something like that.
And that's one where it's interesting because they have so many, like, you could do a diagram on a wall, like, oh, well, this universe does this and that one, and then the Boba Fett and the blah, blah. And I'm like, I lost. Like, to me, Star Wars is the first 3 movies and I'm done. You know what I mean? After that.
Oh, that's blasphemy.
It is
Dave.
blasphemy.
That is blasphemy.
I've seen all the ones with Adam Driver and the girl Jedi thing, and Mark Hamill as a 6 foot tall.
Not the non prequels is what.
Yes,
you're talking
about. I even watched the one with Jar Jar Binks, but after I'm up to that.
That's a prequel. That's a prequel. That's early.
Yeah, but the last one with Mark Hamill, where he was in the movie for like 10 seconds, just long enough to take his hoodie off to go, oh my gosh, it's whatever, Luke Skywalker, and he's old. And
whatever. Don't take Star Wars and say whatever.
Blasphemy. All right, we got 4 minutes. Let's do this one. Honest, I hit the button. There we go. Our intro's dead. I'm working on making a podcast show with segments, and I have ideas for intros and outros for the show. But now and then I run into people saying not to do them. And again, kind of going back to the length thing. It's your show. It's your show. Do what you want to do. Ow. Yeah, you can do whatever you want. So if you want an intro, do an intro. If you don't want to do, there are people that you don't need one. I mean, Todd and Rob don't do an intro. They just say, welcome to the new media show. I'm Todd and that's Rob. And that's right, Todd. And, that's it. And so I'm trying to think of else. But then you have Adam Curry on Podcasting 2.0, Roan's the music, and he does the whole DJ thing. My friend on the other end, say hello to Dave Jones. He's got that whole thing going on. And it kind of, depends on whatever you want to do. But yeah, I don't know that, to me, an intro, welcome to the Blah Blah Show, where you get your podcast questions answered live. I'm Dave Jackson from the School of Podcasting. Joining me is Jim Collison from the Home Gadget. So kind of like, and I can't say, on today's show, we're going to talk about such and such, and this is how you benefit, because we don't know where we're going. It's a live show. But if I did know what the topic was, I would want to introduce that and give it a little tease so people would stick around. So, yeah, I'm with Chris. He's like, boring intros are dead. I worked with a client this week, and it was awkward because I had to say, yeah, you don't get to the content till about 5 minutes in. And it wasn't because they ran a bunch of ads. They took forever to introduce their guest, where they read the LinkedIn bio. And then once they got done reading the really long LinkedIn bio, and look, I get it. You want to make sure everybody knows who your guest is. But then they asked him, so tell us a little bit about yourself. And I'm like, we just spent 2 minutes reading his bio. Yeah. And I go,
can't do both.
Yeah,
you can't do both.
You're kind of boring me here. I go, get to the good stuff. And they're like, you know what? We didn't even notice that. And I go, that's why you hired me. That's my job, is to go, hey, you lost me here. And also at the beginning of the show, they kind of did their chit chat. My favorite place for chit chat is at the end, where the super fans are still listening. But yeah, so your intro should get people excited. The thing I think people should just ditch is, let's take a clip from the interview and put it at the beginning. Why?
Oh, these are fighting words. Well, say that again, Dave.
Yeah. So that thing where the person goes, sometimes it's best to just take the rear view mirror and throw it away. And then they, start the intro stuff. And then later in the show, they go, well, we have found that men in their 50s are going to have their pay cut drastically, and they will have a very hard time going forward. Now, which one is going to grab your attention? Right? I'm like, wait, hold on. I don't care about the rear view mirror. That's a bumper sticker. Thank you. And that's what it is a lot. It's a bumper sticker. And I'm like, no, give me something where I go, I want to hear more of that. And typically I don't go, please, sir, more bumper stickers. Do you have another one? The et cetera, et cetera. So
is your point about the clip itself, or we shouldn't be doing clips?
The clip is not doing its job. The job of the clip is to get me to want to hear more. And instead it's like, you hit play and you're like, and man, this one time my brother ran over my foot with his bike. And you're like, okay, do I want to hear more about that story? To whereas if the host just came on and said, hey, today we have an interview with this person, and then they explain the part of their really long LinkedIn bio that really pertains, that's relevant to their audience, and they go, this person is a big shot smarty pants because they do this. And wait till you hear what happened about such and such, and then you roll the intro, because you don't have to listen to the interview again to find that 7-second piece of gold he said, holding up quotation marks. I just don't think that works most of the time. So Jeff says I'm doing everything wrong.
No, I don't think so.
I don't think, no, Jeff is doing, Jeff, I watch you in my living room. You are my living room pal now on YouTube. But I love Jeff because he's reminiscent of Chevy Chase, because he'll go, I'm Jeff C. and you're not. And I'm like, I get that joke. So
he's got a great beard, and
he does have a great beard.
Delightful mustache too.
Yes.
Yes.
So Jim, I don't know if you can hear this, but I'm going to push the button on the outro music, and I will start to slowly fade this up. I need to go into Zoom.
A little bit.
Can you? I need to go into Zoom and probably adjust it. But what's coming up on Home Gadget Geeks?
My wife's name is Sarah, and it's her birthday weekend, and so I took the week off. That was the best husband thing I've ever done.
Good for you. And
but Jeff C is still in. Speaking of Jeff C, he's still in the pipeline for me. The most recent episode. If you want more of a fabulous beard and a great mustache, you can check it out today. Is that a good lead-in?
That is.
At homegadgetgeeks.com.
In fact, if you're doing an audio podcast, this is what you do. And you're like, if you don't know Jeff C, you probably do. Because when you see him, you're like, man, check out that beard. Check out the mustache. In fact, if you're listening to this in the car, go to the website, homegadgetgeeks.com. I've got a picture of Jeff right there. You can see the beard. You would be amazed at how many people go, I got to see this. I can't wait. What's he talking about? It's a brain gap. And so if you're doing any kind of travel show and you're like, yes, the streets of Venice were amazing. I have pictures of these out at the website, mywebsite.com. People are going to go, wait, they keep talking about this gondola boat and the floating poo in the water. They have pictures of the floating poo in Venice? I got to see this. So I'm going to put it on ratemypoo.com. That used to be a website. Don't know if it still is or not. Don't go there. Oh boy. Some things cannot be unseen.
What's on your show, Dave?
Yes, thank you. On my show, I believe I'm not done with my Running Your Podcast as a Business episode yet. So I'm going to bring on a guest who talks about how we're all blowing it with interviews, because she actually is an agency that goes out and finds shows, and she explains how she finds the right show and stuff like that. We also have a Because of My Podcast story from the one and only Ralph from AskRalph.com. But we will be here next week with another fun episode of Ask the Podcast Coach.